Good evening, welcome to Prime Edition. I am Cynthia Nyamai, and our sign hand interpreter tonight is Lucy Maura. Now on the news tonight, CJ Martha Kaume has sounded a warning. It has something to do with their budget, and I do have the details for you. Also, LSK did hold their elections for you. The details are on standby. In business, young and industrious, we're talking about the new education system in Kenya and how it is benefiting their youth. And in sports, Munga has the details for you. We have a lot for you, so let's start right now. But first, let's have the highlights.
We have a human resource capital deficiency of 56%. We have a budgetary allocation deficiency of 21 billion.
Judiciary cash crunch. Chief Justice raises red flag over ability to handle election disputes. Let's be humane. ODM leader calls for prudence in dealing with border menace. Sustainable tourism. Kenya to phase out diesel-powered vehicles in its national parks. We would like to hear from you, so you can send us your feedback and comments on our social media channels. That is on Instagram, Facebook, and also Twitter on KBC Channel 1. Now, to a story that I had highlighted earlier, where Chief Justice Martha Kaume now says the judiciary may not be able to handle electoral-related disputes effectively due to the insufficient funding. Speaking when she engaged the National Assembly's Budget and Appropriation Committee and the Public Accounts Committee in Mombasa, Kaume said the judiciary is operating below the threshold of its constitutional requirement due to infrastructural challenges and staff shortage. The CJ called on Parliament to push for additional funding to the judiciary to enable it perform its mandate. Kaume further called on the Judicial Service Commission to recruit more judges to help address case backlogs.
We have a budgetary allocation deficiency of 21 billion because we were allocated 18 billion. We have an infrastructural capacity deficit. We have about 34 courts around the country that have not been completed. And you know how difficult it is when you have put resources to build a court, and 3, 4, 5 years down the line, those courts are not completed, they cannot be used, and your resources are sitting there. For the judiciary to be able to effectively discharge our mandate, we require allocation of resources. We are absolutely prepared as the judiciary, and our preparedness is in terms of training of the judges, magistrates, and all the judiciary staff who will be handling the petitions, disputes. The tribunal is in place. Recently, we have increased the numbers of the members of the Political Parties Dispute Resolution Tribunal.
And now to politics, where the Orange Democratic Party leader Raila Odinga now says the ongoing crackdown on the border sector should be done on humane manner. Odinga, who spoke during the campaigns in Meru, called for sobriety in the exercise that has so far seen over 200 riders arrested following the harassment of female motorists along the Wangari-Maathai Road a week ago.
ODM leader Raila Odinga and Azimio Brigade took their vote-hunting mission to Meru County ahead of Azimio la Umoja National Delegates Convention launch on Saturday in Nairobi. Odinga using the occasion to weigh in what has turned into a national debate over the border sector. Odinga calling for sobriety in the exercise that have so far seen over 200 riders arrested.
Lakini sio ati wale wote ambao wako katika hiyo biashara ni wahalifu. Wale wale wengine waachiliwe, maana wanafanya kazi vizuri. Mimi ningependa kuhimiza askari wacheni kunyanyasa kwa bodaboda.
During the campaigns, Odinga pledged to improve the region's economy by intervening to lift the ban on the export of miraa.
Maneno ya soko ya miraa, mnajua tuko na shida huko Somalia. Pia tunaomba ikifunguliwa huyo rais wa huko, uchaguzi ukiisha, ututetee pia hiyo soko ifunguliwe.
Wakulima wale wa miraa, wale wa mahindi na kadhalika watapata msaada kutoka kwetu.
These as area leaders urged Odinga to pick Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Peter Munya as his running mate.
Tuko chini ya Raila Amolo Odinga na waiting deputy president wa nchi yetu ya Kenya, Peter Katilao Munya.
Wengine wanasema Raila anakura Meru. Anakura ama anakura?
Tunataka kuasa siasa za kikabila nyuma. Tuunganishwe pamoja na President Uhuru Kenyatta na Raila Amolo Odinga, tuwe na Kenya mpya tukienda mbele.
Meanwhile, it all systems goes for the Azimio rally to be held in Kisumu this Friday.
Tomorrow is the day to show the might of the fifth. We want to make sure that we are of good behavior and that the person that is being clapped for is none other than
I know that we have had problems on the border at the national level, but I assure you that here in Kisumu, we have spoken with the authorities.
The Independent Party KANU has meanwhile said it will attend the Saturday's Azimio la Umoja Delegates Convention as part and parcel of the movement. For Prime Edition, I'm Gladys Mungai.
From politics now to scales of justice, where 16 boda riders facing charges of robbery with violence and sexual assault will be detained for 15 days pending investigations. This follows an incident last week where a female motorist was assaulted by people believed to be boda riders at Barabaratano stage along Wangari Maathai Road. This and more stories from the courts.
The 16 boda riders arrested in connection with manhandling of a female motorist last Friday will now be detained at Gigiri Police Station for 15 days pending conclusion of investigations. They appeared before Magistrate Robert Shiko, where they are facing charges of violently robbing and sexually assaulting a female motorist. She lost a phone worth 130,000 Kenyan shillings. The investigating officer, Livon Manzia, was given 2 weeks to complete her work. Meanwhile, the judiciary will now pay Susa Oyatsi 3.6 million shillings per year since 2nd of May 2018, upon finding that she was lawfully appointed as Director of Finance in the judiciary but was not confirmed. Advertisements put up in the dailies for the position have equally been quashed. Finally, Justice Alfred Mabea says the judgment on the Mumias Sugar Company Limited receivership will be delivered on notice. This follows completion of a hearing on the insolvency and listing of the company, pitting the bidders against the administrator and receiver, as well as questioning the decision by the receiver manager to award the lease of Mumias Sugar to Sarai Group. Also in the suite are other applications seeking the removal of the receiver and administrator. Sarafina Robi for Prime Edition.
Kenya Kwanza Alliance has called on the National Cohesion and Integration Commission and the Director of Criminal Investigation to crack the whip on politicians propagating hate speech. Speaking while traversing Kilifi and Mombasa counties, the Alliance said the law should not be selective on any leader that utters political intolerance. The development comes as the Pastoralist Party United Democratic Movement endorsed Raila Odinga as their presidential candidate during their National Delegates Congress at the Bomas of Kenya. Ruth Wamboi reports.
Speaking during the Kenya Kwanza Coastal Tour, the leaders say the competitors are making utterances bordering on incitement and hate speech with impunity.
Ile tunatamka matamshi yetu hadharani to make sure that we don't divide the country. Kuangalia ni nani wa kudhalilishwa, ni nani wa kuhujumiwa, na ni nani ambaye hata akisema nini atatembea free.
The brigade rammed up support for Ruto's presidential bid, saying his regime will prioritize grassroots economy.
Tukirejesha huduma za bandari ndani ya Mombasa, vijana wetu watapata ajira na sisi tutaleta kupitia mpangilio wa bottom up.
Wewe ndo presidential aspirant wa chama chetu cha UDM.
And United Democratic Movement Party has officially endorsed Raila Odinga as their presidential candidate during their National Delegates Congress held at the Bomas of Kenya.
Sisi sio wale wanajifanya busy Nairobi kupiga picha, sisi tuko mashinani na tunakujenga.
Kule Wajia ni maji, shida ya maji. Na tunaweza kule Garissa iko maji, manake mto Tana iko kule. Tunaweka pomba ya maji kutoka mto Tana tunapeleka mpaka kule Wajia.
This is as Maendeleo Wanawake Organization Governing Council threw its weight behind the former Premier's candidature.
We want to land this country safely into a transition. And the only way to do this is to support Raila, former Prime Minister Raila Amolo Odinga.
Elsewhere, Amani National Congress has reiterated that the party will not have direct nomination of candidates. The party's election board chair Salim Busaidi maintained the party is in Kenya Kwanza Alliance.
Our party respects and treats all its members and candidates equally, and no aspirant will be given preferential treatment.
And impeached Wajir Governor Mohamed Abdi is back in office after 9 months in the cold following a court order.
Sasa kwa sababu nimesharudi kutumikia hawa, nitahakikisha ya kwamba watu ya Wajir wamepata huduma.
As the 2022 general election gains momentum, the United Democratic Movement have endorsed Raila Amolo Odinga as their preferred presidential candidate for the 2022 general elections. Reporting from the Bomas of Kenya, I'm Ruth Wamboi.
The Council of Governors has urged the government to exempt imported fertilizers from value-added tax in order to reduce the price of commodity, which has skyrocketed during the COVID-19 pandemic era. COG Chair and Embu County Governor Martin Wambora, who was speaking during a press briefing, urged the government to consider a 50% reduction to cushion farmers.
Council of Governors urges the Minister of Agriculture, Livestock, Fisheries and Cooperatives to apply government subsidy and drift this burden from Kenyans. We propose that the Ministry exempt fertilizer products from VAT and import duties and subsidize farm inputs by 50% in order to lower the prices. This is the only immediate and short-term solution to the ongoing problems in the sector.
Now, Kenyans have been asked to embrace regular medical checkup to keep away non-communicable diseases, most of which can be treated if diagnosed early. Health experts who spoke during the World Kidney Day celebrations are reporting increased burden of kidney diseases in the country, saying this could quickly overwhelm health facilities if speedy action is not taken. Purity Museo reports.
Gertrude Mwazo was diagnosed with kidney disease in 2020 after struggling with hypertension for 4 years. The disease was at stage 4 when it was detected, hence transplant was the only treatment option for her.
June last year, I got an attack. That was an infection because of the kidney failing. But this one, it came so abruptly until I was knocked down. I went almost in a coma.
Medics are raising an alarm of increased burden of the disease in the recent months.
The medical diseases that need alertness from the point of the primary contact. That is where they have missed a high blood pressure in a young patient. If a person of my age comes with a blood pressure, nothing great in it, they will take few tablets. Because that is okay, everybody is hypertensive, almost 30, 15%, 20% of the population. Now with a 20-year-old boy, they find hypertension, don't take it easily.
While lifestyle has been linked to the increased burden, nephrologists say early diagnosis could make the difference.
This, just like any other non-communicable disease, has been fueled by, among other things, the demographic transitions that exist, rural-urban migration, changing economics, and the global world.
Current advances in kidney disease treatment, be it dialysis or transplant, should afford those afflicted a comfortable life.
To encourage all of you to think of getting a transplant, be it that you have lupus, was the cause high blood pressure or whatever. I think a transplant gives one a fairly normal life.
During national celebrations at Kenyatta National Hospital, experts also urged the National Health Insurance Fund (NHIF) to consider ensuring outpatient treatment.
We'll be on that single vision of delivering universal health coverage so that all Kenyans can be able to enjoy health care, not only on renal, on oncology, or in diabetes or hypertension. And again, the difference between
Chief Administrative Secretary in the Ministry of Health, Dr. Mercy Mwangangi, on her part, said the government was committed to ensuring improved health care for all.
We have passion now, we have excitement, we have the motivation to ensure that the UHC dream is realized for all Kenyans. And so I do thank NHI for their contributions in defeating kidney disease.
This year's theme for World Kidney Day was Kidney Health for All. Purity Museo, Prime Edition.
Now, this is an interesting story. Now, the Nairobi County government and the Metropolitan Services are on the spot over the controversial allotment of public land in the city. Lands Cabinet Secretary Farida Karone submitted before the Senate Devolution Committee documents detailing how private developers are leasing public land that is under the Nairobi County government. And as our parliamentary reporter Geshuki Washuri reports, senators expressed shock after learning that the lease of the Pumwani Maternity Hospital expired in 2012 and the city-county government is yet to seek its renewal.
Lands Cabinet Secretary Farida Karone appeared before the Senate Devolution Committee of eviction of residents of Nairobi City Water and Sewerage Staff Quarters in Eastleigh and Pumwani Staff Quarters. The Cabinet Secretary revealed Nairobi County Government was yet to renew the lease for Pumwani Maternity Hospital that expired in 2012. This even as public parcels of land adjacent to the maternity hospital had been illegally allocated to private developers.
You already know that the staff quarters is a serious dispute. Chances are they may have been allocated already to someone, like what you reads out in your testimony. Now, as it stands, Pumwani Maternity Hospital is sitting on land whose leasehold they do not have.
Chair, you will be surprised to note that up till now, Uhuru Park did not have a title. We are working on that. KICC ground, Central Park. We are working on this, all these public institutions within Nairobi, Chair.
The senators queried how Nairobi County Government had allocated parcels of public land to Nomad Resort Limited, Yorkshire Company Limited, and Avalanche Investment Group. The Senate is yet to establish the faces behind the three companies.
You'll realize that Nomad Resort Limited, a company that was incorporated on 11th of February 2000, was allocated the land in Eastleigh on 9th of March 2000, 1 month after incorporation. And then the deed plans and the registration of title was done 18 years later. So SG Mwangi will have to tell us how that happened.
A valuable parcel of land like this one, then you just lease it with an annual fee of 46,000. So what are we saying? You know, there's no value for money.
We must see the minutes of the council meetings, whether they were in 2000 or 1978. They must be on record. We must see the letter of allotment. We must also get the certificate of incorporation for the companies that were allotted, because, Chair, it is already emerging that some companies were allotted land just 2 weeks after the incorporation. Some companies were allotted land 10 years before they became tax registered. So we must see that.
The Ministry of Land submitted 1,500 parcels of public land has so far been documented in Nairobi in the ongoing digitization program, and the titling process has started. The senators now want Inspector General of Police, the Director General Nairobi Metropolitan Services, and the Governor Nairobi City County to appear in person next week Wednesday to answer the many questions surrounding allotment of public land in Nairobi. Reporting from Parliament, I'm Geshoki Washira.
We'll take a short break, but when we come back, we'll tell you the latest on the ban on scrap metal. That and more coming up shortly.
Kapewa kikombe cha maji ya kunywa, maji kwa weupe yameshinda hata maziwa.
Tunazungumzia mada ya majukumu ya mzazi kwa mtoto.
Kama wazazi, sisi ni jukumu letu kubwa kujua haki za watoto wetu, kwa nini zinazofaa wafanyiwe. Kwa hivyo tuweni makini sana na hawa watoto wetu ili tupate kujua wanaoyafanya, ndo ili baadaye mustakabali wao, maisha yao yawe katika mwelekeo wa Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala.
Welcome back. Now, the Law Society of Kenya today held elections with members saying they want incoming office bearers to uphold the rule of law. 5 members were cleared to contest for presidency, and the term of the previous office ended prematurely after an acrimonious season under the leadership of Nelson Havi.
The Milimani Law Court's ground on Thursday. Hundreds of lawyers turned up for the Law Society of Kenya national elections to elect new office bearers.
We want to ensure if we can have a council that is going to put the government in check so that we have a transparent process through which things are done.
Number one issue is audit and accountability before we talk about unity.
We want a functional leadership, and we want a leadership that embraces dialogue.
With 9 posts up for grabs in the nationwide exercise, candidates promise to transform the society to regain some of its lost glory.
Of course, we all know that we've had a bit of challenges at the Law Society, but those are now behind us. We can only look forward, hoping that we can be able to avoid the pitfalls that befell the current council.
For the last 2 years, members have been split, and the issue that split members was the mandate given to the council on the 23rd of July 2020 to undertake audit, the forensic audit. That is what split the society.
The Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission was in place to ensure the process was smooth and transparent.
The law requires that we begin polling at 8 a.m. and the presiding officers and the other election officers were here
They were able to open the polling stations. They were able to even witness the emptiness of the ballot boxes to the agents who had arrived by then.
At the Supreme Court, another polling station, the process was smooth, albeit low voter turnout.
Number one, we need a bit of some sanity within the council, within the bar.
The exercise also went as planned in other counties as well.
The IEBC is carrying on the exercise very well. It is peaceful. The members are turning up. The elections are supposed to go on up to evening. I think
the positions that are being contested are 9. Out of 9, 4 of them have multiple choices, as in more than one person will be voted for in those 4 positions.
5 lawyers were cleared by the LSK Elections Board to contest the presidency. They are Nairobi Branch Chair Eric Deuri, his coast counterpart Matthew Nyabena, former LSK Vice President Caroline Kamende, and former LSK Council members Bernard Kipkoech and Omwanza Ombati. They are seeking to replace Nelson Harvey, whose term ended prematurely after being ousted by the branch caucus for failing to comply with a court order requiring him to call a meeting of the Society's council. The office bearers will serve a 2-year term.
The new office holders have an immense task ahead of them in trying to restore some of LSK's lost glory. The over 15,000 member-strong society, key issues among them will be accountability, audit and unity. Reporting for Prime Edition from the Supreme Court, my name is Ben Troinju.
Kenya will phase out the use of diesel vehicles within all national parks and reserves by 2030. Tourism Cabinet Secretary Najib Balala has said this is part of the multi-pronged proposal to help Kenya achieve sustainable tourism. The Tourism CS has further said that the government will require all tourism facilities in Kenya parks to adopt renewable energy and circular economy in their operations by 2030.
To combat climate change, African countries are creating synergies with the aim of achieving a carbon neutral status. The adoption of sustainable tourism seeks to mitigate the adverse effects of climate change and boost tourism within the country. Speaking while at the Masai Mara Game Reserve, Secretary Balala noted that African countries should also take time to create synergies and cooperate in combating climate change in Africa. So far, Kenya has banned the use of plastic bottles and paper bags within the Kenyan national parks and reserves.
I met with the Commissioner for European Union in charge of environment, and we discussed how do we make sure that we mitigate the losses of biodiversity, at the same time address the issue of plastics.
Balala has further said that the ministry will also restore degraded areas in national parks and reserves with a concerted effort on reforestation and increase in marine conservation area network.
Your incredible open landscapes and the quality of the service is something that we're hoping to be able to replicate in Gabon.
Kenya is currently implementing the COP26 declarations on sustainability and climate change that calls for the rollout of climate-friendly policies.
We need to have a strong voice from Africa to fight against illegal wildlife trade, to mitigate against loss of wildlife biodiversity, and to make sure that communities benefit from this resource.
The Embo River Lodge has received global recognition thanks to some of the innovative solutions it has developed to fight against climate change. Kenya is leading the Africa Sustainable Tourism Agenda that is geared towards mitigating the loss of biodiversity as well as addressing the issues of plastic pollution in Kenya and the continent. Ndutamo Kami for Prime Edition.
Now to some positive news where the government has stayed the ban on scrap metal business until proper guidelines are developed to regulate this sector. Trade Cabinet Secretary Betty Maina has further said the government has formed a multi-agency team that will discuss and address the legislative gaps that exist in the law that governs the scrap metal business in the country.
In January, President Uhuru Kenyatta banned exports and dealings in scrap metal, hitting hard traders in the business. The ban came at a time when the country was witnessing a surge in the vandalism of critical infrastructure. Under the ban, traders are not allowed to engage in the business until proper guidelines are put in place to regulate the sector. Scrap metal traders have been piling pressure on the government to rescind the decision.
What are the timelines are we looking at?
When will the ban be lifted?
Trade Cabinet Secretary Betty Maina has told the National Assembly Committee on Trade that the government will not lift the ban until proper regulations are instituted. Maina has said the moratorium imposed will only be lifted if stakeholders' concerns are heard and dealers in scrap metal adhere to the laid down guidelines.
I cannot police you everywhere. I think at some point we also need to become disciplined as operators. We need to become disciplined as business people and ensure that we are not abetting criminal activity.
Member of Parliament for Dagoretti South, John Carey, said the decision is punitive to traders and exporters who solely depend on the business as their main source of livelihood.
The public and industry players are feeling that there was no need for a ban if the laws that are there are sufficient.
Exporters and dealers have been advised to apply afresh for licenses, and so far only 91 dealers have applied out of 700 dealers.
Requested and invited dealers and traders, smelters, everybody in the entire ecosystem of scrap metal. We've invited them to apply for licenses.
The CS noted that although the law in place is exhaustive, it is not sufficient enough to tame the runaway vandalism in the country, which is costing the economy billions of shillings. The moratorium on scrap metal trade is a double-edged sword that has cut both ways. And although the government says that proper guidelines are being worked on through a joint meeting between the private sector and the public sector, there seems to be no light at the end of the tunnel on when the ban will be lifted. Caroline Jenga for Prime Edition.
Thank you, Caroline, for that report. Now, Kenya is slowly emerging as a regional electric vehicle powerhouse, with the local roads now witnessing the entry of electric buses, motorbikes, three-wheelers, personal vehicles and taxis. Yesterday, local start Basic Go became the first company in Kenya to launch electric passenger buses with Kenya Power, announcing that it will roll out charging stations for electric vehicles as part of the diversification strategy.
Data from the International Energy Agency shows that in 2021, electric car sales more than doubled around the world to 6.6 million, representing close to 9% of the global car market, tripling EV market shares from 2 years earlier. The IEA report projects that by 2030, 60% of global car sales will be electronic. Various companies have rolled out various electronic units like bikes and taxis. Yesterday, local startup Basigo launched electric passenger buses that will ply various routes in the city.
This is a phenomenal industry that will have a huge impact on the economy while protecting the environment, and its full exploitation will lead to the creation of thousands of jobs.
Kenya Power has also announced that to facilitate the growth of the market, it plans to roll out various charging stations in the country, starting with Nairobi.
To support the development of e-mobility ecosystem, which will include identification of sites for potential charging stations, as well as requisite geomapping software to enable users locate the nearest charging stations as they go about their business seamlessly.
The power retailer says there is potential for new revenues due to enough power to support the e-mobility ecosystem.
We currently have in Kenya an installed capacity of 2,991 megawatts. At night, the demand goes so low to almost half of this available supply, to 1,000, actually less than half, to 1,200 megawatts. This means that there is enough power to support the entire e-mobility ecosystem, including powering charging stations for domestic and business use.
Acting Managing Director Rosemary Oduor says the utility firm is keen to support the growth of electrified motorization in the country by creating an enabling environment for investors in the sector. Kenya is facing the challenge of poor air quality and a high carbon footprint, as most PSVs run on heavy diesel. Basigo says these buses are capable of traveling for 250 kilometers on a single charge and offer USB charging and Wi-Fi connectivity for all passengers with other innovative uses. It will cost you 5 million shillings plus a daily subscription fee equal to 20 shillings per kilometer, which includes the cost of leasing the battery, nightly charging at a depot, service and maintenance for the electric bus. City Hopper will be deploying the Basigo electric bus on routes between the city centre and Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. East Shuttle plans to deploy the electric bus on the Eastland side of Nairobi.
DRC is a country endowed with arable lands, rich mineral deposits, and an insatiable market for goods and services required by the almost 100 million population. The Kenya and DRC governments organized a trade mission in partnership with Equity Group that saw more than 300 investors and entrepreneurs visit the vast country for 2 weeks. Watch this documentary on how the DRC is ripe for investment and trade on KBC Channel 1 on Friday the 11th of March from 6:35 p.m.
Are you an aspiring candidate in the upcoming general elections? Do you want your agenda and manifesto to reach your voters effectively? At KBC, we have the most comprehensive and credible online platform that has profiles of all prospective candidates. Log on to www.kbc.co.ke/2022 aspirants and let Kenyans know more about you, your past achievements, your manifesto, and your development agenda once you get elected to office. What's more, the website is easy to navigate. We will create your profile, post pictures and short videos with your campaign messages at affordable hosting fees. Log on to www.kbc.co.ke/2022 aspirants today and establish your brand authority as we lead towards the forthcoming general elections.
Do you have a news story to share with KBC? Get in touch swiftly on email news@kbc.co.ke or call 0723-892-654 or 0734-780-124.
Welcome back. It's now for FarmWise. Now, a section of residents in Joro Nakuru County have turned into honey production to mitigate against increasing droughts that have resulted in frequent crop failure. Apart from producing honey for both domestic and export markets, the farmers have also been engaging in honey value addition, producing an assortment of products in a bid to maximize on their earnings. This week on FarmWise, we focus on honey production and value addition.
Battered by erratic weather patterns that have resulted in poor and delayed rainfall, hundreds of farmers to Muithiga village in Lare Ward, Njoro sub-county are switching to beekeeping as an alternative source of livelihood. The farmers have more than 30 hives and have formed a beekeepers association to aggregate their produce to enjoy economies of scale. A hive can produce up to 30 kilos of honey every 4 months, with the farmers making more than 30,000 shillings per hive.
Tumeona projection yetu, tunaweza pata na tumepata pesa mingi za kutusaidia kwa miji yetu na pia kusomesha watoto wetu.
Apart from honey production, the group has also ventured into wax, pollen, propolis, royal jelly and bee venom production as value addition.
Tulinunuliwa mizinga 35 kwa kikundi cha watu 30 na so far tumevuna safari 3.
Mzee, sasa mimi naona niasirie jembe niendelee na hii kazi ya nyuki. Nikipata misiga mingi nitakuwa ingirisa nyuki nyingi.
To address cases of reducing colonies, the farmers have planted 25,000 indigenous trees to attract bees.
When establishing the proper foliage for our bees, we are very much concerned about what we are establishing. So issues like maintaining even the water catchment areas or the wetlands is very much well emphasized and practical when it comes to apiculture.
The Nakuru County Government, in partnership with the National Agricultural and Rural Inclusive Growth Project, have inked deals with various financial institutions and cooperatives to advance cheap loans to the farmers to help them increase their production.
Providers who are to take our farmers through all the stages of proper good apiculture so that we will improve their livelihoods.
Farmers are also receiving training on modern beekeeping techniques to ensure they adhere to the safety regulations in a bid to tap the wider international markets after securing a deal to export the commodity to the UK market.
Pata chakula lazima uwe na kilimo bora. Kilimo bora kinahitaji pesa. Hizi pesa ndizo tumepata kutoka kwa kazi ile tumefanya ya ukulima wa nyuki kwa kuuza asali.
Benson Rioba for Farm Voice.
Corporate Kenya is raising concern about overheating political temperatures in the country. The Kenyan Private Sector Alliance is urging politicians to tone down their political rhetoric, which is causing jitters among their investing communities. KBC CEO Carol Kariuki says the country must adopt a blockchain approach to ring-fence the economy from the negative impacts during the political seasons.
The Kenyan economy is usually the first casualty during the political season. The economy goes through cyclical cycles that knock off economic growth. In the last general election in 2017, the economy registered a flat growth of 5.6%. The Kenya Private Sector Alliance says it's concerned about the rising political temperatures 5 months to the general election. Speaking during the launch of the Kenya Daima initiative, KBC CEO Carol Kariuki says the government should adopt blockchain technology to ensure transparency.
And it has started. There are some sectors that have started putting blockchain. What we want is blockchain in all the systems of government, and that will reduce a significant portion of corruption.
We're just coming off from the pandemic. Everybody's trying to recover, and it is important that we don't take yet another dip.
KBC says it's committed to sustained engagements with all actors that are charged with elections to ensure they deal with economic disruptions. The business leaders appeal to political leaders to maintain peace, to avoid disrupting the economy and businesses. The Kenya Daima 2022 will focus not only on pushing for peaceful elections and smooth transitions, but will also seek to build on Wajibu Wangu to Nitatenda Wajibu Wangu rallying call to all Kenyans to be responsible.
So we need to ensure that we create confidence in our institutions. That is the only way we can be able to manage these elections well.
Hibak Saeed for Prime Edition.
If you're a micro, small or medium-sized entrepreneur, then you are familiar with the many challenges that come with bookkeeping and a lack of efficient business tools. However, some of the innovators have found a way of digitizing their activities with the aim of reducing losses, thus becoming more attractive to potential investors. Tonight on Tech One, we'll look at how small businesses are adopting new ways of ensuring business continuity through the use of smart business practices.
Despite small businesses' significant contribution to Kenya's socio-economic development, they continue to perform below capacity, riddled with a high mortality rate. The scenario is bleak, with the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics SME report showing that 75% of small businesses die within 3 years of inception, underpinned by challenges such as access to finance, markets, information, technology, lack of management skills, and unsupportive policies, among others.
How do we make sure our businesses get restocked? How do we make sure that our businesses get the latest or the fresh products in, to drive the economy of our countries?
The emergence of COVID-19 has further adversely affected MSMEs, with 37% of SMEs scaling down their production since Kenya reported its first case of COVID-19 in March 2020. This means that many had to revert to unconventional or technological ways in order to survive the onslaught.
The little shop owner now has access to basic digital platforms, very basic, that allows, first of all, they can onboard all their customers, get their customers to subscribe, which means they make money on day one when the customer comes, so even to collect that credit, but without changing the thought process of the customer.
The use of technologies in business, such as the increased uptake of mobile money payment systems like M-Pesa, Airtel Money and T-Cash, have proved helpful. SMEs say other business tools such as Paylend have come in handy during these tough times.
Paylend has offered them a platform that they can record the credit transactions, and not only these credit transactions, but also cash transactions that they do on a daily basis, making them bankable and also able to access credit from financial institutions.
Paylend, a startup itself, is an application that helps businesses digitize by providing an array of services, including access to credit, crowdfunding tools, forming alliances with strategic partners, among others. Proponents of technology in business say that no one should be left behind when it comes to access to technology that can potentially facilitate wealth creation and drive digitization. Alanauko, Tech One.
News on the EAC, where non-tariff barriers remain the biggest challenge facing the East African community. The East African Business Council is calling on the EAC member states to resolve non-tariff barriers that impede intra-regional trade. Trade within the EAC stands at about 13%, a figure which is low compared to other regional blocs such as the European Union that stands at over 70%. As Betty Kitum reports on the addition of the EAC integration, the elimination of NTBs will deepen and spur regional trade.
Under Article 13 of the Customs Union Protocol, the EAC partner states have agreed to remove all existing non-tariff barriers to trade and not to impose any new ones. The protocol on the establishment of the East African Customs Union came into force in 2005. By ratifying the protocol, the East African Community partner states agreed to remove with immediate effect all the then existing non-tariff barriers to the importation into their respective territories of goods originating in other partner states, and thereafter not to impose any new non-tariff barriers. By so doing, they committed to formulating a mechanism for identifying and monitoring the removal of such non-tariff barriers. Despite this clear framework, non-tariff barriers still lie at the heart of the EAC integration process. NTBs include tax-like measures that impose a monetary cost on imports, quality and safety standards, import bans, and cost-increasing customs and trade facilitation measures incurred as a result of the monitoring and enforcement of trade facilitation and customs rules. A report shows tax-like measures account for the largest share, 40%, of unresolved NTBs. The share of customs and trade facilitation measures in unresolved NTBs is 28%, which is significantly smaller than its share in resolved NTBs, standing at 45%. Meanwhile, the share of NTBs falling into the standards and bans categories is also higher among unresolved NTBs. The East African Business Council now says it is time NTBs are removed if the EAC integration process is to be successful.
If the heads of state, in their infinite wisdom and with all of their power, can make declarations that say, bring down these borders. Make East Africa a borderless region. Recognize that on the borders, brothers and sisters and families have lived for decades, if not longer. And now these artificial colonial borders have divided us. Enough is enough about empty rhetoric and empty speeches. Either they declare East African Community is a common region, or they don't, and stop wasting our time.
Nesbitt says the region should take advantage of its challenges and solve them by opening up borders in order to diversify the economy.
You take a regional approach, it helps every business person recruit anyone from our 5, 6, soon to be 7 countries. It allows any business person to sell to anybody in those. What does that mean in terms of your resources available to you, and what could that mean in terms of the market available to you?
To prevalent of NTBs, these measures we impose on our goods. So our peer and core as ABC is to remove those barriers that hinder trade, to harmonize standards, to harmonize our SPS measures, to embrace technology, digitalization.
EAC ministry officials say there is a need to ensure that transport, logistics and manufacturing work together for a common trade opportunity.
There's a profound opportunity here today to reduce the cost and time of transportation throughout East Africa. If only the transport sector, the logistics sector, the manufacturing sector and the trade sector work collectively for a common opportunity.
Intra-regional trade in the East Africa Community Trade Bloc stands at about 12%. To boost this number, the business community is insisting that governments need to deal with non-trade barriers, such as a ban on specific products, to ensure that trade within the region is enhanced. Betty Kiptum, Prime Edition.
Now, the government, through the new education system, competency-based curriculum, plans to use creative talent as a future tool of employment to many jobless youths. Kreza Micah, a Form 2 student at St. Stephen Musalani in Moala, Machakos County, might not be a benefit of the new education system, but the talent in him has left many amazed. Micah, 16, says he is venturing into the art of drawing at a very tender age and hopes that besides the formal education, his talent will come in handy in his future engagements.
Meet Kreza Mika, Form 2 student at St. Stephen Musalani in Moala, Machakos County. His small frame, just fit for a Form 2 student, might deceive you that he is just but any other boy. This is until you meet him hands-on, putting his drawing pencil to work.
Mi yenye nilichochea nikaanza kuchora. Yani napenda tu, yani is my ability, naweza fanya hivyo haraka sana.
Mika developed a passion of drawing at the tender age of 3. He says he was inspired by one Richard Mudhomi, an artist from Kasarani, Nairobi County, lacking both hands but does a perfect art and design through his legs.
Napenda tu, yani is my ability, naweza fanya hivyo haraka sana.
KBC being his favorite channel.
Good evening, welcome to Prime Edition.
Mika has drawn admiration from its news anchors, going by this beautiful portrait he has done through his hands. Channel 1 Easy Friday Bulletin presenter Shiksha Arora and Darubini's Sarafina Robi appears to be some of his favorite presenters. Few minutes of interaction with Mika, I felt attracted by his skills and prowess in artwork and urged him whether he can do my portrait. And there we go. The 16-year-old has also managed to draw pictures of high-profile personalities like Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka, Makueni Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr., among other politicians.
Nimechora wanasiasa. Kuna MCA Kawaya huko Machakos pande za Mwala. Kuna Mutula Junior kama Kueni na wengine wengi.
He has also drawn images of celebs, particularly musicians in Kenya, who he wishes to meet one day. He draws his motivation from his parents, among other people.
Mwenye amenisupport ni babangu. Anakaa ananibaia hizo rangi za kupaka, kuchanganywa na maji. Unaweka kwa maji alafu unapaka.
The young boy has a YouTube channel to get his talent of art and design to the next. He believes that success in life is clearly determined by both drive and natural talent.
Nikimaliza shule, nataka niwe the best artisan.
Timothy Kipnoso for Prime Edition.
To get Romans chapter 10 as your skiza tune on your phone, dial star 811 star 962 hash.
If you declare with your mouth Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. Romans chapter 10 verse 9.
To get Romans chapter 10, dial star 811 star 962 hash. Star 811 star 962 hash.
Being Sports wants it, Free Sports wants it, Ego TV wants it, and the people at home want it.
Who is your new #1 contender?
Oh, good evening. As always, it is a great honor to have your company for KBC Sports with me, Richard Munga. Now, 50 basketball players, 25 men and 25 women, have been selected to join camp in preparations for the Deaflympics that are set to be held in Brazil in May. The players were selected after a rigorous selection process held today at the Nyamai National Stadium, with the final squad set to be named just before the teams depart for Brazil. The players were selected on merit of games played, individual skills, team skills, discipline shown on and off the court. There was also a balance on regional basis, with the players representing almost all counties, with the youth getting a lion's share of the sports in the team. The 2022 Deaflympics will be held from the 1st till the 15th of May in Brazil. Meanwhile, Kenya's Angela Kutoi has been eliminated from the 15K all-women tournament after losing 2-0 to Ram Ueda of Japan in the second round at the Sierra Hotel in Sharm el-Sheikh City, Egypt. Kutoi struggled with her serves and returns against her 23-year-old opponent, who consecutively dominated all the 3 games in the first set. The two-time Africa Junior champion appeared to have a chance to redeem herself in the first set, challenging her Japanese opponent's speed and showing off her forehand swings, but it wasn't enough. The 18-year-old had started the competition rather on a high note, beating her Latvian opponent Margarita Ignatiev 2-0 in her first match. Kutoi next heads to Casablanca, Morocco for the J1 tournament that is scheduled to run from the 14th to the 19th of this month. Now to a bit of football matters. Harambee Stars captain Michael Olunga is expected to bag the Golden Boot accolade as the 2021-2022 Qatar Stars League comes to an end tomorrow. The Al Duhail striker, who leads the scoring charts with 24 goals, will look to add to his tally in their final match of the season against Al Ahli Doha at the Al Gharafa Stadium. His closest competitor is Ghanaian captain Ayew. To deny Olunga the Golden Boot, Ayew will need to beat the record for the most goals scored in a single match that is held by Algerian Baghdad Bounedjah since 2018. Internationally now, Spanish soccer giants Real Madrid produced the perfect comeback really at the Bernabeu Stadium, beating Paris Saint-Germain of France 3-1 in the night and 3-2 on aggregate to reach the Champions League quarter-finals. Meanwhile, Manchester City also qualified for the quarters with a 5-0 aggregate victory over Sporting Lisbon after a goalless draw in the second leg played at the Etihad Stadium. Well, now, the future of Chelsea Football Club, of course, hangs in the balance as of now. Today, of course, the owner, Roman Abramovich, was banned, obviously, the sanctions against Russians, of course, due to the Russia-Ukraine conflict. But tonight, Chelsea will look to put all that behind them, or rather forget that, when they take on Norwich City in an English Premier League match. But, of course, the shirt sponsors, number 3, a telecom company, of course, they have pulled out of the sponsorship deal, meaning that Chelsea is expected to play with a blank jersey, to say the least. And in other matches, you have Wolverhampton Wanderers taking on Watford. You have Newcastle playing away to Southampton, of course, in the South Coast. And in the other match of the night, Aston Villa will be hoping to continue their fine form when they host Leeds United at Villa Park. Well, that's all the time we had for sports, but remember, for all the updates, stay tuned in to KBC Sports subsequent bulletins. Do have a good night. I'm Richard Munga. Don't go too far. Cynthia Nyamai is on the other side of the studio.
Thank you, Munga, for all the action in sports. Now, just some of your comments. Today, we do have a viewer from Uganda who sent in a message, Mr. Kipkurui, who says he always enjoys the business bulletin on Thursday. Of course, we do have more business stories for you every Thursday. And also, Rose Mutuku from Machako says that she enjoys young and industrials and she would like to see more female entrepreneurs. We do take your suggestions and your feedback very seriously. Now, well, that's it we have for you today. See you next Thursday. From me and the rest of the team, have a good night. I'm so humbled and honored to tell her story. She inspires me. Sia Sururu Muhammad is a para rower and tennis player despite being a double amputee. At just 2 years old, Asia lost both legs and several fingers in a tragic train accident.
I just watching it come, and then just like that, I fall on top of those lanes, and then it crossed over my legs. At 8 years, I was officially disabled and an orphan at the same time.
You do not want to miss the inspiring story. She's been able to change her story from tragedy to triumph, and we'll find out how exactly did she get into sports.